Welcome to the Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I'm Bonnie, and it's Women's History Month at Gal's Guide. I'm joined by Katie, Josh, and Leah talking about our one cool thing. I already talked about suffrage goodies, but before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. I want to know, who is a woman of history that you've been meaning to learn more about?
Ooh. I always feel like I do the stupid ooh, so then I have to go first. Oh,
Yeah.
I do this every time. I actually have been meaning to learn more about Wallis Simpson. Wallis Simpson, I didn't know this until, oh gosh, probably like a couple of months ago or whatever. But she is an American woman who was married a couple of times, and then she just happened to fall in love with a guy who was in line for the British throne. He didn't think he was actually going to be up for it, but after a series of random deaths, suddenly he was up for the throne, and they're like, yeah, no, that's cool, but we don't like Wallis Simpson. We don't like your American cohort, so she has to go. And he was stuck to choose between her and the throne. It was this like whole big thing, and he abnegated. He gave up the... Is it abnegated?
Abdicated.
Abdicated. This is why I just say he gave up the throne. Okay, so he gave it up. So he said, nah, I'm cool, yo. Like, actually, I don't think he actually said those words. But he did that, and I always felt like it was for her. So I'm like, I need to know about her. And there's a book that's called That Woman. And I feel like that's an accurate title. So it's like That Woman. So I want to know more about her, because that's a lot. That's a lot of complexity to even just to deal with. So she's fascinating. So that's mine. Aha.
There's some similarities between her and Coco with some Nazi stuff.
Oh, is there more of that? Oh, it's got to always be the Nazi stuff. Every time.
It's crazy. He not only gave up the throne, he wasn't allowed back into the country without the queen at that point. Elizabeth's
her permission?
Expressed permission.
Wow.
Because he came back like once and was like, I'm going to kind of volunteer.
He was
to do
shunned.
this thing.
Like old school shunning.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
Right. Okay, so I got to know how awesome she was then.
Yes.
For that. Or how terrible his family was. Let's just also go with that. I mean, that sounds fair, right?
At least there was a start to maybe less inbreeding,
Maybe.
but didn't work out.
Maybe. He was trying. He was the only one that was trying not to keep it in the family, if you will.
Exactly.
Are there like some weird conspiracy like theories about there's like a certain disease that the royal family has?
Yeah.
But at one point it's just gone.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it's...
I forget what it was.
It's the one where your blood doesn't clot. Hemophilia.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of those glorious inbreeding diseases, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I thought that was just a Russian thing.
They might also have a serious inbreeding problem,
right,
too,
yeah.
though. The czars.
There is.
Well, I mean, not hemophilia, but
There's a YouTube channel. There's a
Hemophilic
YouTube channel
twins.
called Useful Charts.
Oh, the useful chart show.
Love that channel, and I've been obsessed lately. And they have these family trees of royalty, and so it's like there's a European one, but then they also have ones for like Asia and stuff like that. But the
Different
European
rulers and
one,
stuff, yeah.
The European one, it is so amazing how inbred and how interconnected all this stuff is. And it's like, you look at like the Russian one starts out and they're fairly independent of the European one, but then they get sucked into it too. But it's even when you look at some of like the rulers of Asia too, some of that, even of China and India and the Mongols, kind of theirs start to intertwine with each other. I don't know what it is with royalty and inbreeding.
Oh, I know what it is.
It's frightening.
But yes, it is dangerous. Oh, goodness. Katie, who would be yours? Who would you want to learn more about?
I'm going to play it safe
Do
and
it.
go pre-Nazis.
Okay. That is pretty safe,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Can't have that popping up.
Not on your watch.
And I'm going to go with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Good one.
But I do feel like there was some cousin Marion going on there.
Oh,
or
there
am
was.
I
Yeah.
recalling wrong?
No. There was they were third cousin. I mean, I don't know the
right.
number exactly, but they were technically related.
Yeah.
In the
well,
distance.
It was a long time ago.
You're right. Exactly.
Things were different.
Exactly. But was it though? Because now we're wondering if it was. Like, is it only recently that we don't marry our cousins anymore?
I don't
Like,
know when
maybe.
they started that.
I know. But it's one of my favorite time periods. And I would just like to know more. She seemed like a very strong figure. And I don't know a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, if I remember it, I think she either kept diaries or wrote a lot of stuff down. So she is one of the few where you can hear her words. You know what I mean? Like, you could hear what other people thought of her and wrote about her, but then you can also get it from her perspective too. But yeah, no, she would be absolutely fascinating because she did a whole bunch after being first lady too. And I mostly just know like UN stuff. Like she's credited with like starting the UN or writing the statement for the UN, or there's something with the UN.
And I'll give you a first tidbit. She was dead center in the middle of the Nazis
Oh no.
because she was first lady from 33 to 45.
Oh,
Not
was she?
bad,
You are gonna be
but
steeped
I
in
was thinking
Nazis.
she was the president before, but yeah, that's right.
Me
December
too.
7th.
I was a little
yeah.
off. Oh, my
There
bad.
you
That's okay.
go.
But she was anti-Nazi.
One would
Yeah,
assume.
I
We
mean,
would
she
hope
was
she
probably
was on the Allied side.
100%
Well, someone
patriotic.
Right.
No, but I think I just added a book to the library wish list. I think there's like a thing with her and a little friend she had.
Oh.
It was like, yeah, maybe they were more than friends.
Interesting.
I like that.
Dun, dun, dun,
Gonna
dun,
have
dun.
to
The
look that one
plot
up.
thickens. I know the complexity.
I don't know. It's like back in the day, and maybe also just like back in the day when girls wrote each other, they did
Yeah.
like write how much they loved them, and it's like
Yes.
it didn't necessarily mean
It was like a sisterly, yeah, exactly. The pouring their heart out advice, you know what I mean? I love you so much. Thank you. Not in a, you're my everything.
Sorry, it took me way too long to understand. You said wrote each other.
yeah.
I heard a strong D in that. And I was like, wow, where are we going with this? And
Well, we
so-
don't know. Was that the letter? No, I don't. That was not in the letter. Josh, what is your who you want to learn more about?
is Isabella Allende. She is an author. She's from Chile. Her brother was president of Chile for a while until the military under General Augusto Pinochet took over and made him disappear, like so many people did during that time. And it's something that I first learned about her brother, and that whole period unfortunately through things like Sting and his
You
song.
do love the Sting.
Yeah, I do. And he had a song, They Dance Alone, which was all about the disappeared and the mothers that would dance in the Capitol Square with pictures of their missing relatives and stuff. And then it wasn't until much, much later that I learned about her. And I want to say she won a Nobel Prize for Literature, but I could be way wrong.
Oh, okay.
And that could be something
And
I
it
could
could
go
be a
learn about.
Pulitzer, and it could be
Yeah,
something.
she's won a lot of awards, I know, and she's
Okay.
a very good author. So it'd be nice to learn stuff about her and read some of her books.
Yeah, I dig it. Bonnie, you posed the question. What is your answer?
I need to add her to the library.
Bonnie's like, but first, I write this down.
I want to know specifically about Edith Wilson. Was I think right before Roosevelt. She married the president while he was in office, but she was there at the same time the Silent Sentinels are doing their thing.
Right.
Her husband gets sick, and she's like kind of technically the first female president. For like several months, he's like holed up in bed and pretty much can just sign his name, and she's just running it. She's telling everyone else like, "Oh yeah, I'll bring this to him. I'll have him look at." No, she's just like, "Here, sign this. Like it's good. Just sign it."
Nice.
So I really want to know like her thoughts on like the suffrage movement.
Yeah, right?
Like, I don't think I've really seen much yet. There might have been something where she was just kind of like, "Oh, they're just annoying."
Right, because they're
But-
outside their front door, basically.
Yeah. But I'm would think that she would be for him, especially since she's like running the show, doing her own thing. Like, women can't vote, but I'm running the country.
Exactly.
So I really want to find out, like, there's got to be something either from during that time where she said something about it, or like afterwards in like memoirs.
Yeah. Well, I know Drunk History did like, their 3 minutes on her, and it was hilarious because they, basically had him comatose in bed, and then she's like lifting up his arm, making him sign something and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is perfect for Drunk History. But it wasn't a whole bunch of information. Yeah. It was just like, no, she would be fascinating. And I didn't know that Woodrow Wilson had 2 first ladies, 2 wives during his term of the presidency. So I'm like, well, that's new to me.
He remarried.
Yeah.
Right. I can see Josh's face.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
No, I knew it was not 2
right.
at the same time.
Not 2
No,
at
I
the
just
same time.
no, that was just new to me. I was like,
There was a very limited 1 year between the 2 of them, so apparently efficiency was very much a name of the game.
Well, you usually
Find her,
don't hear
meet her,
about
marry her.
changes in marital status very much during presidency.
Right.
It's very much kind of a thing. That
Shouldn't they be busy?
Yeah,
but
like even you think
if he
of-
was sick, I can see also strategery. Sorry. I'm going to need to get somebody in here because maybe my VP is also not that great. Sorry, I don't know who the VP was at the time.
Some dude.
somebody into eugenics, probably.
Unfortunately. Aw. It was pre-Nazis, though.
Are we sure?
Not really. I'm not even sure anymore.
It was a little bit,
I
slightly.
feel like eugenics is like on the way to Nazis.
Oh, we traded eugenics for Nazis?
No,
Woohoo!
It's like once you get started with eugenics, you go straight into Nazis.
Pretty much, yes. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Next podcast.
Right?
Just pick up your armband at the door and come on. Ugh, scary.
Oh my goodness
Okay.
gracious. Okay, so everybody answered their
Yes, we did.
random gal pal thing. Dear goodness. Josh, you were going to share your one cool thing, weren't you, gal pal Josh?
My one cool thing is a one cool person.
Nice.
So my one cool thing this week is a woman. Her name is Lise Meitner, and I may be slaughtering that name. She was an Austrian-born woman from Vienna. Her family was upper middle-class Jewish family. Her father was a lawyer, one of the few Jewish lawyers in Austria at that time.
Yeah.
She was interested in math and science from a very early age. She started doing science experiments on her own and keeping notes and stuff, starting at the age of 8. Her earliest stuff was on oil slicks and reflection of light and things like that. In Austria at the time, it seems like it was prohibited for women to get like higher education.
Yeah.
As far as like secondary school and stuff like that. So she was privately taught at home. But she was eventually able to get a doctoral degree in physics at the University of Vienna in 1905. She was only the second woman to get a doctoral degree from the university.
Oh, nice.
She went and moved to Germany to continue to start working in physics. And she went up there and started attending lectures from Max Planck. And Max Planck was notorious for turning away women and not allowing them to attend his lectures. But he allowed her to.
Oh.
And she would eventually go on to become his assistant. And what exactly it was, her tenacity or her brains or what that allowed Max Planck that allowed her to be a assistant at Max Planck, I don't know.
Yeah, why he changed his mind.
Yeah, but he did, and so she became his assistant, and then she would eventually go to work at the Friedrich Wilhelm University with Otto Hahn, and those two would work together for many years together, and that's kind of the interesting part of the story is their dynamic together. When they first started working, they started discovering new isotopes, worked on beta radiation and whatever radioactive recoil is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either,
Yeah,
but
you
it
got
sounds
me on that
really cool.
So in 1912, Hahn and Meitner moved to the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, and for the first period that she was there, for the first year, she had to work unpaid.
Oh.
And luckily, her father and her family were very supportive and helped support her through a lot of the times where she was getting little or no pay. But after a year there, she was allowed to take on a permanent position. During World War I, she was a nurse operating X-ray equipment, where she unfortunately got to see a lot of the bad things of war and didn't like it. In 1917, she received the Leibniz Medal for her work with Hahn on the element protactinium.
Oh.
Which I've never heard of that element before, but
I use it all the time.
Do you really? Sweet.
She also got her own physics section at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute at that time, where she would continue working. In 1926, she became the first woman to become a full physics professor at the University of Berlin. And in 1935, her and Otto Hahn began the Transuranium Research Program, which would eventually lead to the discovery of nuclear fission in 1938.
Right, you need the uranium.
So we're talking about the 1930s.
Yeah.
So
bring it. I'm waiting.
The Nazis.
The Nazis. There they are.
Can't step 10 feet without running into them. So at the beginning of the war at the beginning of Hitler's reign in 1933, when he took over, she was kind of somewhat protected because she was an Austrian citizen, not a German citizen.
Okay.
So, and since she was Jewish, there was a lot of complications for her.
And dangers, yeah.
But being Austrian kind of kept her safe somewhat. But in 1938, Germany annexed Austria in the Anschluss. And so she fled Germany through the Netherlands and luckily was able to get over the border into the Netherlands with help from other Dutch physicists.
Oh, okay.
And she was able to escape over the border, and she would eventually settle in Sweden. Well, the interesting thing is, in 1935, her and Otto Hahn had started the transuranium research. And so a lot of those experiments were continuing in her absence. And so in 1938, they had gotten the test results back, and Otto Hahn didn't quite... It was kind of muddied what exactly was going on, but it seemed like he didn't quite understand everything that went on there. And so he met her in Copenhagen, and she ran the math and figured out that what had happened was nuclear fission. So it was kind of hers, the one that put all the pieces of that puzzle together.
Right.
And was able to tell him exactly what had happened. And so he would go on to win the Nobel Prize in chemistry for what he had done. And she got no credit, along with their other partner, another Otto Frisch. They got no credit for it. Only Otto Hahn got the credit for it. And from, I guess, eventually later, the meeting notes from the Nobel Committee for that particular prize year, their notes were unsealed, and people kind of combed through those to figure out what was going on. Why didn't she get included?
Right.
Because actually Otto Hahn had submitted her name multiple times for Nobel Prizes.
Oh, so he wasn't the Watson and Crick in this scenario.
Right.
Okay.
He didn't try to exclude her. And actually, when she escaped to the Netherlands, he gave her his mother's diamond ring to try to bribe the border guards. She ended up not needing it. But it was like a just in case. If you need this. Yes, if you need this, use it to keep yourself safe.
Oh, wow.
And it actually went to her nephew's wife, ended up wearing it. So, so he tried to get her credit for it. And when they looked through the notes and stuff of why he was the only one included on that Nobel Prize for chemistry, it looked like the people that were doing the voting or judging or whatever it is, they thought that since she was a physicist and this was a chemistry prize, she shouldn't be included. They were chemists, and so they kind of wanted to be like, you're not a chemist, you can't be included on this. And then there was some other things that kind of went into it. Some weird science politics stuff.
Sure, like you do. The science politics, you know.
So she got excluded from that. But people in the science world know what she did.
Yeah.
And that's how she went on to become known as the mother of the atomic bomb, which she hated the atomic bomb, by the way.
Usually people who invent it hate it.
Yeah. She didn't like the fact that the science that she helped to create was used for what it was used for.
Yeah.
Another problem she had was kind of with Otto Hahn and some of the other people that she worked with that stayed in Germany through the time of the Nazis.
Yeah.
She had a problem with herself for staying those extra 5 years from 33 to 38. Mm-hmm. But the people that stayed on even longer, she felt that they tacitly kind of disapproved of what the Nazis were doing. So they might put out, or they might say something like, oh, what they're doing is terrible. But yet they stayed there. They helped the Nazis in their science programs and
stuff. They were kind of tisk-tisking the problem because they had a cushy job.
Yeah, exactly. But they weren't leaving like some of the other scientists did. And so she would kind of, I think, maybe held it against Otto Hahn for staying around and not leaving like a lot of other scientists did. But she won books worth of awards.
Oh, hey.
In 1946, she was Woman of the Year. She got Woman of the Year from the National Press Club. 1949, she won the Max Planck Medal from the German Physics Society.
That's ironic. It's the Max Planck Medal.
Yes. Here's even more irony. She won the first Otto Hahn Prize from the German Chemical Society.
So she won all of these prizes named after the dudes that she worked with that needed her to
The Max Planck Prize she did win with Otto Hahn.
Okay,
but it's
sure.
still ironic.
Sweet. All right.
She won the Enrico Fermi Award. She got the Enrico Fermi Award from President Lyndon Johnson.
Okay.
With Otto Hahn and another physicist. So there's also there's statues of her in Germany. There's craters on the moon named after her. There is an element named after her. She's the only woman to have an element named after her solely. That is a non-mythological woman. That is
right, because didn't Marie Curie named it after Poland?
Curium.
Oh, Curium. Yeah,
is named after her and her husband.
Oh, okay. All
it's
right.
Not named after just Marie Curie.
Right.
So she's the only.
Well, I was even going Curie. The element she recognized, she named them not
she
after
named
herself.
Them except for Curium was named after the both of them.
Okay. All right.
And
fair.
so she's the only woman to have one named after solely herself that's not mythological.
Yeah, cute.
So, and there's tons of other awards all over the place that she's won. So she's very interesting, especially kind of around that Nazi period of she kind of helped invent the bomb, which kind of in some eyes helped stop the war. And so, and she didn't like the fact that a lot of the scientists went to Los Alamos. She was offered a position at Los Alamos, and she said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Bonnie, you wanted to know more about her too, didn't you?
I do. She was on my list of women to research to do art about. I got to figure out how I can visually have nuclear fission displayed.
Yeah. There's a lot more that she's done too. So there's way more to research than just the little bit that I have. She's actually really fascinating.
Yeah.
I think there's some kind of quote from Albert Einstein about her, or there's another lady that I get her mixed up with. It's like a math lady. It's one of those two ladies that Albert's like, this lady's awesome.
Yes, there is a quote.
Which is very weird for him to say about another lady, because that's rare.
There is definitely a good quote about her from Albert Einstein.
He was a fan.
And I wish I could remember what it was, because I saw it earlier, and then I can't remember what it was.
Well, while you're looking for that, Katie, have you ever heard of her before?
No, I've never heard of her before.
See, I've only briefly heard of her name, and I'd be hard pressed to tell you what I would know her name from. That's why I'm like going, so who again? Like a sports gal or something? Or...
Did you play tennis?
Right, exactly. It's like, wait, what? What's that?
That is
She's in
amazing.
that Headstrong, the 52 Women in Science.
Oh, nice.
And she's one of the ones, like, there's a pattern in that book of female scientists in Germany, especially Jewish women, that just flee Germany.
Right.
Like, all in that time, I'm like, Germany, if you hadn't, messed up, you would have been like the super crazy science land.
Right. You were chastising and trying to kill your smartest people in science. Yeah. Because they had very forward-thinking colleges. Mm-hmm. And so you were getting some highly educated, genius gals in the region that then had to flee it. Yeah. Interesting. Did you find the Albert Einstein quote? Oh, no. Albert Einstein. We'll try to find it. We can put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think he wrote, I think it was in a letter to someone else, and he was just, giving her a referral. Yeah, this lady's super awesome.
Oh, nice.
Because she was super awesome.
Right. Exactly.
Well, that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool thing as Women's History Month continues on Gal's Guide to the Galaxy podcast.
For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.